Maryland women's basketball lost a heartbreaker in the Big Ten semifinals on Saturday, and then the men's team did the same at Penn State on Sunday. Rest assured though, because lacrosse and baseball went 0 for the weekend too. All of that and more coming up on the Left Bench.
If I had done a better job, we might have gotten the W.
You know, I've got no complaints when you talk about the heart and the hustle that we left out there.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Left Bench presented by Terrapin Sports Central. I'm Kevin McNulty, joined here alongside Keara Bruno. Ladies and gentlemen, it's March.
That's right, the best time of year for college basketball fans is here, and both Maryland teams are right in the thick of it.
And we had a rematch for the ages in the Big Ten Women's Tournament on Saturday, so why don't we start there?
Yeah, let's do it. It's been a must-watch game whenever Maryland and Iowa faced off this season, and the Big Ten semifinals proved to be no different. The Terps got off to a slow start in the first quarter, allowing Iowa's Caitlin Clark to heat up. She went 3 of 3 from beyond the arc to help the Hawkeyes to a 21-9 lead early on. But the Terps did just enough to cut that lead to 8 points after the first 10 minutes. Then Maryland stepped back on the floor in the second quarter, lighting it up. A 10-0 run and 2 3-pointers from Brene Alexander helped bring the Terps within 5 to end the half. Both teams traded bucket after bucket in the second half, and things started to get real exciting when Maryland tied it up at 79 with under 3 minutes to go. The Hawkeyes halted the Terps' momentum, going on a 6-0 scoring run to take the lead. Lavender Briggs banged a huge 3 with under 26 seconds left, and the Terps only trailed by 1. But late free throws from McKenna Warnock secured the Iowa win, and the Hawkeyes went on to win their second straight tournament title on Sunday.
You know, I've got no complaints when you talk about the heart and the hustle that we left out there for 40 minutes. It was just one of those games that it felt like we just couldn't kind of get over that hump. I mean, every time we'd close the gap and we'd be a possession away. You know, they'd get an O board to a great shot, a foul. So it was just you know, difficult being able to get over it.
Well, we have to wait until Sunday to see where the Terps land in the NCAA tournament, but we don't have to wait to break down their 2 Big Ten tourney games and look ahead to the big dance.
To do that, we're happy to welcome on Sam Jane, who covers the women's team for TerrapinSportsCentral.com. Sam, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, so we have to start off with that heartbreaking loss against Iowa on Saturday. What do you think was missing from that team to not be able to pull out that win?
Yeah, you know, I really think it's as simple as this. Iowa's tertiary and secondary scorers made shots. When you have a player like Caitlin Clark on the opposite side, you have to devote so much resources to her to slow her down. But Gabby Marshall and McKenna Warnock made shots. Marshall averages around 4 points a game, and you know, she had 20. That's the type of thing where you can't really control that. Players are just going to make plays, and they didn't do that in College Park. You know, they did it in Minneapolis. Those are the biggest elements, I think, that contributed to the loss. And then Diamond Miller and Cheyenne Sellers going down for a little bit certainly didn't help. But I really think Maryland played a good game. I was just a great team, too. And when secondary scorers are making shots that you don't really expect them to make, you might lose the game.
And Brenda Fries said afterwards, Sam, that game felt like an Elite Eight game, which is great to hear, Big Ten semifinals. It really did. But there were a couple possessions there down the stretch that the game came down to. Maryland didn't really seem like they knew where to go.
Yeah.
When they face a situation like that in the NCAA tournament, who has the ball?
Yeah, that's a great question. And Abby Myers talked about that, actually. She said that's the one thing. We need to get in our sets. We need to execute down the stretch. You know, they've been in a lot of big games. I don't know if they've necessarily had that type of opportunity where, you know, they're able to go to a go-to scorer. And you'd think Diamond Miller would get the ball, right? That's obviously, you know, Maryland's best player. But teams are going to load up to try to stop her. I really think someone who could maybe take some pressure off her in those big spots is Lav Briggs. You saw that 3 she made in a big spot. She really can get to that mid-range pull-up whenever she wants. And the Florida transfer has had some big-time scoring moments this year. So I would maybe look at her in the future to potentially add some sort of scoring punch if it gets into that type of situation again.
And we knew that Maryland was primed for a very high seed going into the Big Ten tournament. Now, after the Iowa loss, where does Maryland stand heading into Selection Sunday?
Yeah, Kevin, I mean, that's a great question. I think that, you know, all those committee members are really the only ones who know, but I think you're probably looking at a 2 seed if you're Maryland. You know, Iowa's probably going to rise to that #1 line, along with, you know, obviously South Carolina is going to, they're going to get the #1 overall seed, and then 2 others. So you have to think they're probably at the top of that 2 line, getting a 2:15 matchup here in College Park, and then another one back at home for them. So I would guess the 2 seed. You never really know what could happen, what the committee could value, but that's where I would expect Maryland to fall on Sunday.
And staying on the topic of the NCAA tournament, what do you think the Terps have to do to make it far in the tournament this year?
Yeah, I really think that it's going to come down to perimeter shooting. You really need Brene Alexander to continue to shoot it well from 3. You really need Abby Myers to continue to be that type of scorer she's been as kind of Maryland's secondary. And then this is, I think, the biggest variable if you're looking at one player. Cheyenne Sellers. She is these team's backup point guard. She's their second best scorer behind Diamond Miller. I really think that if she can really emerge as kind of, there's always that March player that really takes the step and leap and everybody's like, whoa. If she takes that leap, this team is primed for a big-time run. And I really think that if those variables come into play, this is a team that could make the Final Four.
Yeah, you're definitely right on that. And Cheyenne, she's really been stepping up.
Yeah.
Well, Sam, thanks so much for taking the time today and for your coverage of the team all season long.
Thanks, Sam. And you can follow Sam on Twitter at Sam_Jane230 and read his work at TerrapinSportsCentral.com. Well, the men's basketball team wrapped up its regular season this weekend, and the Terps had an opportunity to clinch a double bye in the Big Ten tournament with a win at Penn State Sunday. That didn't happen, and wait till you see how. The first half was maybe the best 20 minutes we've seen from Maryland on the road all season. Juju Reese had the team's first 6 points, then an 8-0 run put the Terps up 7. And the Costa Rican, Ian Martinez, got out to help them to a 13-point halftime lead. But no matter who's manning the sidelines, Maryland always seems to struggle at the Bryce Jordan Center. And what can you not afford to do against the Nittany Lions? Let them get hot from 3. But when Miles Dredd and Andrew Funk got going, that's exactly what happened. A minute and a half to go now, Maryland up 3, and there's Funk, all alone to bring Penn State within 1. The Nittany Lions took the lead on their next possession, but Maryland grabbed it right back with a beautiful Reese layup from Don Carey. Then, this happened. Seth Lundy misses a 3 at the top of the key. All 3 Terps at the rim whiff on the rebound, and Cameron Winter puts it back for the win. A true scourge in State College. That is tough to watch. And Sunday was a wild day across the conference. If the Terps had grabbed that rebound, they would have been a 2 seed in the Big Ten tournament. Instead, they're the 6 seed.
The rest of the field was finalized Sunday as well. And Purdue, Northwestern, Indiana, and Michigan State are the 4 teams receiving double byes. Maryland was 3-2 against those 4 this year. The Terps will take on the winner of Nebraska and Minnesota in the last game Thursday night. They hold a 3-1 record against those 2 teams.
Then if Maryland is victorious on Thursday, it'll advance to the quarterfinals against Indiana late Friday night. All games prior to the semifinals will be broadcasted on the Big Ten Network. And Keara, obviously, what could have been with the double bye, getting the 2 seed on Friday, that didn't happen, so forget about it, right? Nebraska or Minnesota, they obviously struggled with Nebraska on the road, so there's no guarantee that they even get to Friday now.
And also just still how they struggle playing on the road in general. We'll just see how that plays out.
And that might come into play on Friday with a big Hoosier fan base in Chicago.
Yep.
We'll talk about that a little bit more later in the show, but
that's right.
It's basically going to be a road game if they play the Hoosiers on Friday.
Yep, that's right there. Well, in some more basketball news, incoming freshman Deshaun Harris-Smith was just named Naismith High School All-American Honorable Mention. Harris-Smith has been an absolute bucket for Paul VI in Northern Virginia this season, leading the team to the WCAC Conference Championship game. The 4-star recruit averaged almost 17 points, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists in his senior year. Harris-Smith is the #1 prospect out of Virginia and helped PVI go undefeated in the regular season.
Well, Maryland wrestling competed at the Big Ten Championships this weekend, and even though the Terps earned their first Big Ten dual victory since 2016 this year, they couldn't get out of the basement in the postseason. But Maryland's team score did not take center stage this weekend. It was all about Jackson Smith and the Miller brothers, Cal and Ethan. Smith and Ethan Miller both earned NCAA qualifications on Saturday, but both guys were right back on the mat on Sunday. Along with Cal, who's headed to the NCAAs later this month, by the end of it, Cal finished in 8th place at 141, and Smith came in 3rd at 197. The Terps finished the tournament with 24 team points, their most at the Big Tens since 2018.
Maryland Gymnastics returned home to Xfinity Center Sunday afternoon for the Terrapin Quad, and Senior Day turned into a record-setting day. The Gym Terps' impressive meet was just another part of an exciting and emotional Senior Day, as each of the seniors in the rotation had one of their best meets, matching or topping career highs. The Terps closed the meet with a strong floor rotation. Their score of a 49.525 was the best for Maryland in almost 10 years. Maddie Komorowski led the group with a 9.925, and Rhea LeBlanc, Taylor Osterhout, Emma Silberman, and Reese McClure all set career highs. The day continued on the vault with a score of 49.225 and beam with a 49.3. The Terps were led by Alexis Rubio's 9.925 on vault and a 9.9 on beam from Komorowski. The only event Maryland did not top the leaderboard was in bars, where New Hampshire earned the best score, but Alekna Chiknias still put up a 9.9. The Terps won by more than a full point thanks to season-high performances on floor and beam.
It's really special, and I said to them, I don't want them ever to leave. I mean, they're such a great group, hardworking, talented gymnasts, but some of the greatest human beings I've ever worked with. So I love them all, I'm proud of them, and I'm glad they could have this special night.
What an impressive showing that was on Senior Day. And stay with us, because when we come back, we'll recap a wild weekend of lacrosse at CQ Stadium.
And later, we'll tell you how all 7 Terps performed at the NFL Combine. Keep it right here.
I tell my son, I love you every single day. I love you. Now, my dad has never said that to me. Not because he doesn't love me, but because culturally it wasn't comfortable for him. Now that he's a grandfather, he says, I love you to my son every time he sees him. My advice to all the fathers out there, forget the cultural restrictions. They grow up way too fast for you to waste even a single precious moment.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Left Bench. Kevin McNulty here with Keara Bruno. Keara, let's talk lacrosse, and we have to start with that thrilling men's game on Saturday. You were there.
I was, and it's not every day you get to see a triple overtime game, and that was the first time the Terps did since 2018. After an impressive showing at Princeton last week, Maryland looked to keep its momentum going. But with number 2 Notre Dame coming to town, we knew it would be a shootout, and a shootout it was. The first 15 saw the Terps and Irish trading blows, with Owen Murphy leading the charge for Maryland. A first quarter hat trick from Murphy propelled Maryland to an early 1-goal lead, but the Irish would soon be back in control with a quick start to the second quarter. And it didn't help that Maryland went an entire quarter scoreless. The Terps fought back into it and maintained a 1-goal lead in the third. Chris Kavanaugh was a problem all day for the Terps, and his 3 goals put pressure on the Terps in the fourth. Maryland still led by 2 with 4 minutes remaining, but that lead was not safe as 2 quick Irish goals sent the game into overtime. Maryland goalie Brian Ruppel came up big in OT with 2 huge saves to keep the game leveled. But the Terps just could not find the back of the net, and the first 2 overtime periods went scoreless. In the third overtime period, Pat Kavanaugh sent a screamer by Ruppel, closing out the Terps in a heartbreaking fashion, 13-12.
Really proud of their effort. Really proud of this group, how far we've come in the last 3 weeks. Wanted badly for them to get this W. Obviously, when you play a team like Notre Dame, who's one of the best teams in the country, you have to play 60 minutes plus, and they're a really good team. They're always well coached, and today was no different. So.
And unlike Notre Dame, Maryland wasn't striking gold when it came to its shots. The Terps have been adjusting to a new offense with some new faces, and in the last few games, they've been putting lots of shots on net, but don't have many goals to show for it. Here's more on the Terps' attack. For number 4 Maryland men's lacrosse, they have been reaching high numbers for shot attempts in the last few games, but low shots made to account for them. When the then number 1 Terps traveled to Baltimore to face off against Loyola, they went 7 for 42, compared to Loyola's 12 for 26. The week after, Maryland faced off against number 16 Syracuse, where they took the W, but still went 15 for 50 compared to Syracuse's 12 for 29. Maryland was able to take a hard-fought win against Princeton, but still went 11 for 45 with 16 turnovers. The Terps had another opportunity to execute their shots more consistently on Saturday, this time back at home. When Maryland took on number 2 Notre Dame, the offense didn't look much different. This time they took 55 shots with just 12 made, making this the 4th game in a row with a high shot count and not many goals to follow.
You kind of look and, again, first half, 30 shots, 4 goals. That's something that we're going to have to work on. The 20 turnovers, a lot of turnovers. So, again, I think those are things that we can improve upon. And to win a game like this, we're going to have to.
In the second overtime period, Maryland took 4 shots, but none made it in the back of the net.
I mean, every week we do, like in practice, like up 3 goals with 3 minutes left, or down 3 goals with 3 minutes left. So I think we were definitely prepared for it, and that's something we're going to keep working on and getting better at.
The looks are there, the shots are there, but the finish has been inconsistent.
I think we could have maybe executed a little bit better, but again, I always tip my hand to the team we're playing against, much like Loyola a couple weeks ago.
The Terps will hit the road next to take on Albany as the offense has another chance to capitalize on their high shot attempts.
I feel like if I had done a better job, we might have gotten a W, so I got to do a better job this week getting ready, and that's really my goal.
Tillman says the execution is something the team has to work on, but he's confident his group can get the job done. And Kevin, it's definitely been hard for the Terps to adjust without guys like Wisnauskas and Donville anymore.
Oh, certainly, and you can't forget, you mentioned it, Bobby Benson, their offensive coordinator from last year, is not around anymore either. So it's a new offense taking some time to adjust, but I think they'll be just fine. Notre Dame is a really, really good team. Going to 3 overtimes isn't necessarily the end of the world. And now let's shift things over to women's lacrosse, whose game on Sunday could have given you deja vu. Kathy Reese began her head coaching career at Denver back in the mid-2000s, and since being at the helm of the Maryland program, she had never lost to her former school. That changed Sunday at CQ. Maryland came out strong as freshman Corey Edmondson scored the Terps' first 2 goals of the game, on her way to her first career hat trick. More on her later. Edmondson was the #1 recruit in the nation last year and is already making her mark in the Maryland midfield. Despite Edmondson's performance, Maryland had a season-high 17 turnovers. Denver capitalized on the mistakes and went on a 7-1 goal-scoring run. Near the end of the first half, Denver caused a penalty with 1 second left on the shot clock and was able to capitalize with a goal. That propelled them to 4 straight goals and put them up 7-3. Maryland only allowed 1 goal in the final 25 minutes of play, and the Terps had some late-game chances, but the 4-goal deficit was too much to overcome. Despite Maryland's second-worst start under Coach Reese, she doesn't seem to be too concerned with the team's play right now.
Coach, it's hard because this season in particular, yes, we want to win games, but we have so much growing to do as a unit. And defensively, I have a lot of new faces, like I've said, with Kennedy Major and Clancy and Marge Donovan back there, Corey Edmondson playing midfield. Like, they're new. You know, Maddie Sterling on the field. So really watching that unit get better and stronger and grow as we go through has been awesome as we're 5 games in and we're seeing significant improvement. And so I love how that's translating, and I love hearing that we gave up 1 goal in 25 minutes. I'd like to give up 1 goal in 60, but that's probably a little harder. So it's good. We're making some progress, but obviously frustrated with the loss. Losing's not fun, by 1 goal, 10 goals. It's just not. We don't want to lose. But
all right, and how about we finally talk about a Maryland win, or 5 of them. Maryland softball just had a ball down in South Carolina over the weekend, completing 5 shutouts in a row. The weekend consisted of wins over St. Joseph, Monmouth, and East Carolina, but we'll show you the highlights from the Terps' thrilling win against East Carolina on Sunday to close out the tournament. The Terps got on the board first after an RBI single by Amelia Leck drove in Megan McCamey. And still in the first inning, Trinity Schlotterbeck slammed a huge 3-run homer to put the Terps up 4-0. Maryland then brought in 2 more as Mackenzie Greco crushed a 2-run homer, and East Carolina posted 2 runs in the 4th, but that was it for them. As for the Terps, the bases were loaded in the top of the 7th, and Greco launched another homer to close out the game 12-2.
Well, there was a lot of hype surrounding Maryland baseball coming into this season, and much of it remained even after the Terps dropped 2 of 3 at Ole Miss last weekend. But this weekend at the Cambria College Classic in Minneapolis, a lot of their national momentum subsided. It started with a rematch against the Rebels on Friday, which meant Jason Savacool would man the bump for the second time in 4 games against them. Savvy held Ole Miss to just 3 runs over 5 innings of work, but that wasn't good enough because Matt Wood's RBI base hit in the 4th was the only offense for the Terps, and they dropped this one 5-1. Then on Saturday, brought perennial powerhouse Vanderbilt to the opposing dugout, and Nick Dean had a rough outing against the Commodores. He allowed 6 earned in his 5 innings, forcing Maryland to mount a comeback, which they did. Kevin Keister gave Maryland the lead with a big 3-run shot to center, and after that, Vandy tied it. Then, Nick LaRusso did it again with a nuke over the left field wall. LaRusso has so much power, and you can see it right there. That one was a bomb. But leading 7-6 in the bottom of the 9th, Kyle McCoy came in to close things out. But R.J. Schreck, that'll do, donkey, that'll do, walks it off for the Doors. The Dirty Terps faltered on Sunday morning as well, falling to Hawaii 9-3 and returning to College Park, losers of 3 straight.
And briefly, the tennis team traveled to Florida over the weekend and dropped its match against Florida International 4-zip. The Terps lost the doubles point and then couldn't finish off in singles, dropping 4 of 6.
And here on the left bench, football is always on the mind, especially when Maryland's head man is winning awards. On Thursday, the National Alliance of African American Athletes announced Mike Loxley as the first ever winner of the Ted Ginn Senior Coach of the Year Award. As one of only 3 African American coaches in the Big Ten, the Alliance is honoring Loxley for his accomplishments in 2022, which included an 8-5 record and a victory in the Duke's Mayo Bowl. Lox will formally receive his honor at the Watkins Memorial Gala this Saturday in Washington, D.C. I don't know if they'll dump mayo on him, though.
I mean, I would like to see it again, to be honest.
Me too.
And the Combine took place in Indianapolis last week, and the 7 Terps invited showcased why they deserve to play in the league. Deontay Banks, Jacorian Bennett, Rakim Jarrett, Dante Demas, Jacob Copeland, Chad Ryland, and Jalen Duncan all represented Maryland and Indy. We have to start off with cornerbacks Banks and Bennett because my oh my, they were just flying. In the 40-yard dash, Bennett ran a 4.31 and Banks a 4.36. That's the fastest by a pair of cornerback teammates in NFL Combine history. Banks also literally reached new heights, placing first in the vertical with a 42-inch leap, then in the broad jump in 11.4, the 3rd best for a corner at the Combine ever. Moving over to the receivers, and Demas, Jarrett, and Copeland were just making the events look easy. Jarrett cruised through the gauntlet, Copeland dashed his way through the 40, and Demas was a standout as well. Next up, we got big man Jalen Duncan, who placed top 10 among offensive linemen in the 40, vertical and broad jump. And lastly, kicker Chad Ryland had his shot at the Combine as well. He made 60% of his career field goal attempts from 50 plus yards, and he has a prospect grade of 5.60. What a display of talent at Lucas Oil Stadium. And stay with us because when we come back, we'll get ready for our trip to Chicago with Ricky Podgorski.
And as always, we'll crown our Terp of the Week, Pro Terp, and Top 5 Plays. Don't go anywhere.
There's so many rewards in life. You coming into our home was one of the greatest rewards we could have ever had.
You know, it took 20 years, and I got my 3rd child, who was 17 at the time.
It's so cool to watch the adult that you've become, and you really have done as much for us as you think we've done for you.
Welcome back to the left bench. Keara Bruno here alongside Kevin McNulty and Ricky Podgorski, because this time tomorrow the 3 of us will be on our way to Chicago for the Big Ten tournament.
It's going to be a long ride, but I'm ready.
We'll be all right. I'm so excited, you guys, and as our resident Chicago expert here on the left bench, I decided it's time to quiz you guys on the United Center, where the games will be taking place this weekend. You guys will know the place well by Sunday. So I got 5 quick hitters for you guys. Are you about ready?
I'm ready to go.
Let's go. I don't know much about the Midwest, but
you'll be all right. First one has to do with basketball, so I have a feeling
that's my court.
You'll do fine. So the United Center has been home to, of course, the Chicago Bulls and the Chicago Blackhawks since 1994. How many championships have those 2 teams combined for in the days of the UC? 2, 4, 6, or 8?
Well, I know how many the Bulls have.
Process of elimination
so,
here.
Yeah, it's 8. It's got to be 8. Bulls have 6.
Oh, I put the letter.
That's fine. So you're saying 8. You're saying 8.
Yes.
Incorrect, because the United Center was only home for the Bulls championships in 96, 97, and 98. They played at Chicago Stadium beforehand.
Wow, you really got us there.
It wasn't that hard.
Wow.
But it was not 8, it's 6, and then 3 for the Blackhawks during the 2010s. They're a little dynasty there.
Look
so
at that.
Now you know. Look up in the rafters when we're there later this week, all right?
Keep count.
And with a capacity of 20,917 for basketball, the United Center is the largest arena in the NBA. Which arena is second on that list? Is it A, Capital One Arena here in D.C., Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia, Little Caesars Arena in Detroit, or the TD Garden in Boston?
I know. I'm surprised Miami's not on that list. Miami's it's pretty big, but I mean,
looking at the capacities, they're all pretty similar.
Close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know I might be having to take a guess here.
I'm
gonna go with what teacher said to put on a
Philly,
test.
Detroit, or Boston?
If we didn't know the answer.
I'm going Boston because I'm a Boston guy, and I've been to the Garden. The Garden is huge, so I'm going TD Garden.
I'm going C, listening to my teachers in the past.
You're going with where the Pistons play in Detroit. Both of you are wrong, so you're both over 2.
What's going on?
I told you I didn't know much about
Oh my
the West.
gosh.
It really has nothing to do with it. But
Well, this one has to do with Philly because it's the Wells Fargo Center
there we go.
in
Oh, gosh.
Philadelphia. So 0 for 2.
This is a little bit embarrassing.
We're going to be teaching them a lot this weekend. This one's a little bit out of left field. Which daytime talk show host taped an episode of their show during its final season at the United Center? Is it A, Ellen DeGeneres, B, Dr. Phil, C, Oprah Winfrey, or D, Maury Povich? We know that guy.
is Dr. Phil still on air?
It's ending. I think it's ending last year or this year. But I know this one because I like my talk shows.
She does.
I don't. I
Don't
mean,
look.
I think I'm gonna just go with my
Ellen,
gut.
Phil, Oprah, or Maury?
Oprah.
Oh, we got. Are we right?
They both got one.
Let's
Let's
go.
go.
Oprah filmed her show in Chicago at Harpo Studios for many, many years. So during final season in 2011 or something, she sold out the United Center. She's pretty popular.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's Oprah.
All right, number 4, we have some Big Ten tournament questions now for the last 2. The UC has been home to the Big Ten tournament 10 times in the past. Which team has the most championships when the event is held in Chicago? Is it A, Michigan State, B, Ohio State, C, Illinois, or D, Michigan?
My first thought is Michigan because they're just a notorious basketball program. So my first thought would be Michigan. But I don't know. You've been tricking us with these past few questions, so I'm kind of going to go away from that. I'm leaning more towards Ohio State or Michigan State. I don't know.
I
Illinois
know what
is
I'm
not
leaning
really.
towards, but I don't want you looking.
I'm going to.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ricky and Keara are both going with Michigan State, and they are correct.
Let's go.
Now you're 2 for 4.
Okay.
So that's pretty
50%.
good. It's notable that
we get 0%.
the first 4 years of the Big Ten tournament were in Chicago from 98 to 01. Of course, Michigan State has a national championship thrown in there, so they won 2 during that period. Ohio State and Illinois both have 2 at the United Center as well.
Oh.
Both of Michigan's were when they were out here on the East Coast in D.C. and up at the Garden in New York. So that's just a little fun fact.
Learn something new every day.
All right, and last one. The last time the tournament was held in Chicago was back in 2019, and Michigan State raised its 6th championship trophy in the tournament. Who was named MVP of that tournament? Was it A, Draymond Green, B, Aaron Henry, C, Denzel Valentine, former Bull, or D, Cassius Winston?
What year did you say again?
2019.
Well, it can't be Draymond.
That's a pretty big hint.
Draymond was 2012, right? Around
He's
there.
farther back there. I'm not supposed to be helping you.
And then Valentine was not far after. So I think I know who I'm going to go with.
By
I
process
think
of
I'm-
elimination,
yeah,
you're
I'm just
deciding
gonna
between
50-50
B, Aaron
here.
Henry, or D, Cassius Winston.
I got my guess.
Did you already write yours?
I did.
Just write
Okay.
you just have to write a letter. They both redeemed themselves pretty nicely here.
I'm
they
getting so
go
excited.
3 for 3 in the last 3.
Wow.
It was Cassius Winston. Of course, that 2019 team went all the way to the Final Four, upset the Zion-led Duke Blue Devils that year. That was a good team.
Cassius Winston was a bucket in college.
The Big Ten is better when Michigan State is good. They got that double bye for the tournament this weekend, but Guys, I'm pretty impressed. 3 for 5. It
me
started
too.
out a little rocky.
That was a little bad at the beginning.
3 for 5. We got
At least
a lot
we know
to
our
learn.
Big Ten stuff. That's
true.
important.
That's true.
Important
We got a lot to
for this
learn,
week.
though, when we
do.
pull up
We
to
have
the
10 hours in the car to learn.
That's true. Maybe we'll just listen to Chicago History podcast the whole time. How about that? Yeah, you guys would probably kill me.
Probably.
No, it seems like you guys are ready for our pilgrimage. Ricky, we better have a playlist ready for
I'm
Wednesday.
very ready. I've already been working on it.
And let's do it. I'm ready.
You ready,
too.
Keara?
All right, thanks for coming on, Ricky.
Thanks, Ricky.
Thank you guys for having me. Can't wait for the ride.
Well, I think it's about time we go ahead and crown our Terp of the Week. And it wasn't a winning week for Maryland, but this player still stood out to us, and that's freshman Corey Edmondson of Maryland women's lacrosse. Edmondson was the #1 recruit in the nation before signing with Maryland, and with only 7 games under her belt, she's already turning heads. The freshman has tallied 6 goals this season, with 3 of those coming from her first career hat trick against Denver on Sunday. We won't be surprised if Edmondson takes home this honor a few more times during her Maryland career. Congrats to Corey on being crowned our Terp of the Week.
And it was too tough to narrow down this week's Pro Terp to just one guy, so we're going with 4 of them. It's the 4 members of the 2022 National Champ men's lacrosse team that are now shining in the Premier Lacrosse League. Logan Wisnauskas and Alex Smith are members of the PLL's Chrome franchise, while Roman Puglisi and Keegan Kahn compete for the Whipsnakes. Those 2 teams got together in the PLL Championship Series back on February 24th, and that's why the champs are this week's Pro Terps. And Keara, it's time for our top 5 plays of the week, so why don't you go ahead and get the people going.
Yep, let's go ahead. And at number 5, we have Kevin Kieser's 3-run homer against Vandy on Saturday. Let's look at this one in slow-mo. An absolute missile to put the Terps in the lead there, even though they did end up taking the L on that one.
That they did, and the camera was way up on the roof. At number 4, it's Corey Edmondson with the big goal. Top shelf right there. She had herself a day on Sunday. We'll be seeing a lot more Edmondson highlights as the season goes on.
And in at number 3 is a 3 from Lavender Briggs this time, to put the Terps within 1 with under 26 seconds to go. But again, we know how this one ended, unfortunately.
And sorry about choosing a play from this game, but it was a big one at the time. Juju Ruiz in on the great cut to the basket to give Maryland the lead. Of course, you know what happened next, but that was a terrific play down the stretch for Juju.
And our top play of this week goes to Brian Rupel with his OT save. This one was from the second overtime period, which was one of his many saves from this weekend. And that's all for this edition of The Left Bench. Nathan Schwartz and Jonas Evans will be here with you next week before we take a week off for our spring break.
And besides following along with our coverage from the Big Ten tournament in Chicago, be sure to keep up with all of Terrapin Sports Central's coverage on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and online at terrapinsportscentral.com.
We'll see you next time.